Hey, Buru, hey, boya, hey, bucheche, everybody in Cyberland. Your favorite Babaláwo, at least I hope so. Omodum, Oddi, Leke coming at you with another spiritual Sunday. I know I switched the time up on you guys. It's a little later than earlier, but definitely necessary as I travel through this craziness that is going on with this winter storm, Fern, I believe is what it's called. But definitely want to kind of just welcome everybody to the mix and tell everybody how excited I am to see everybody in here. So many blessings to each and every one of you, and thank you for tuning in for sure. So first off, I always want to say, many blessings to those of you that are already tuned in. It looks like you guys are ready to go. So Paul, good to see you. Alex, good to see you. Viz, good to see you. Star, good to see you. No, little boy at Bucheche. Many, 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 many blessings nonetheless. So hey, so we got a really fun filled session going on today for multiple reasons. One, because I want to kind of touch bases on today, building on some of the things that we've spoken about so far, right? And every Sunday, the idea is that we continue to build on what we already have established. I'm coming from you from the great state of Texas. So I'm glad that Texas welcomed me with open arms. So, my wife and I are here and we're taking care of business out here. And I said, hey, you know what? Nonetheless, I have to be able to kind of at least at a minimum be able to establish some form of rapport and get the Sunday spiritual chat going. So nonetheless, let's go ahead and knock it out because I think that's important. So when we talk about, what we've been talking about so far, we're seeing a pattern here, right? A pattern of elevation, a pattern of how do we spiritually grow at the same time give thanks to where we're going and how we're getting there. Also understanding, now that we have the information, and now maybe some of us have taken some proactive measures, right, in the faith, what do I do next? Or maybe we haven't even decided what we want to do in the faith, and maybe we're still on the fence and still trying to figure this out, right? And I think that's important for us to kind of analyze a little bit. But as we analyze it, I think it's important for us to anchor on a particular Odun. So in this Odun that I want to speak of is an Odun that's called Irosung Ika. Okay, so with that said, today we're going to push forward, right? In order to build some clarity, not to build confusion, right? With some vision, not emotion, all right? And we are no longer laying a foundation. We're no longer warming up, right? We're going to start talking about self mastery. All right. How do you take what you have, what you know, where you want to go, and how you want to get there? And how do we master that? That's where I want to go next. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I want to kind of focus on this Odun Kong Sonka. And you're probably wondering, like, hey, what's so special about Sonka? Well, Sonka has an old saying that the elders would tell us all the time. And it's when the mouth becomes the enemy of destiny, you know what I mean? Many things can then go awry, right? When the mouth becomes the enemy of destiny, okay, bad things will happen. And many of you are probably sitting back right now thinking about, okay, well, what does that mean exactly? Right? So in Irosonga, right, a couple of things that I want to kind of just focus on is that this is an Odun, right, that deals with probably one of the most dangerous enemies a person can have, right? And many of you on the chat, go ahead and tell me, what do you think is the most dangerous enemy a person can have? And feel free to put it in there. Put it in the chat because many people, have this misconception that it's the world is against me. Everything is against me. And I'm the first one to tell you no. Because here's the truth. The enemy that a person can have is very simple. Their own mouth, their own thoughts, their own lack of restraint. Alex, spot on. right? Paul, spot on. Tyshawn, spot on, right? Little boy at Tyshawn ain't get to say hi to you. So when we talk about that, you know, yeah, Paul, exactly. Self-doubt. You're exactly correct. So you guys are all hitting it right exactly on the head. So Hiroshima is one of these Oduns that this is when people, this Odun, right, and the elders and the textual, concepts and the patakis and everything that comes with this Odun seed, spot on ourselves. This Odun speaks on, right, people who talk too much, people who announce plans, too early. Little boy at Taishan. People who sabotage themselves through their own words. People whose destiny is strong, but whose discipline is weak, right? And Hiroshima God begins to initiate this thought process because it's important for us to understand. Because it doesn't matter what Odun you have. It doesn't matter what religion you follow. It doesn't matter the spiritual walk that you are on. And that's the big key. God does not describe outsiders attacking you. It describes you undoing yourself. This is why this Odun fits, where we're gonna go, where we are going as a cyberland community. Because vision without restraint becomes exposure. So something to think about, something to think about. And I want to kind of emphasize this self-mastery, you know, and how we need to build that restraint and how we need to kind of maneuver, with this faith by telling you a pataki. And this pataki is very clear. In Hiroshima, there's a pataki about a man whose destiny was great, but his mouth was reckless. Right? And this is and this and let me warn you now. If you have this odun, then yes, you are very much susceptible to what I am about to say. You more than anyone else. And this means that you may need to listen a little bit more clearly, right? And I know many people with this odun. I know many people, even within my own family, biologically, that have this odun. And it is something that if we're not careful can get us in trouble. So let's get into this pataki. So a man consulted Orumila because although opportunities kept coming to him and the path to prosperity was there, nothing was lasting. The blessing will come and the blessing would go. And each time he rose with an agenda or an entrepreneurship or whatever he was working on, it would just collapse. Each time he was praised, and then just that fast he was disgraced. And if I spoke, and the Odun that Orumila marked was Hiroshunka. And Orumila told him directly, your problem is not enemies. Your problem is that you speak before destiny finishes speaking. So Orumila explained to the man that a habit of announcing his plans, complaining publicly, revealing private matters, right? And those are the things that are bringing his downfall, right? He spoke in anger, he spoke in pride, he spoke in frustration. And every time he spoke carelessly, he weakened his own destiny. So Orumila warned him and made it clear. For in order for you to find success, right? Do not speak your plans before they mature. Don't argue publicly. Don't insult people who hold the door for you. Don't curse, yourself in moments of anger. The Ebo was prescribed, and the Ebo requires something that was very unique. And many people today, you guys are going to be like, what? That was it. The Ebo was simple. It required silence. It required restraint. It required offerings to stabilize his Oddi, his inner head, his destiny. So the man performed the physical part of the Ebo, but he did not correct his speech. He continued to talk. And then shortly after, he lost a major opportunity. And when he returned to Ifa crying, Orumila said, Irosonka does not forgive a loose tongue. The mouth that speaks without discipline will eventually speak against itself. And Ifa concluded, destiny does not fall from enemies alone. Sometimes destiny is pushed down by a person carrying it. And I want you guys to kind of resonate on that a little bit. Because here's the thing. We live in a world right now, right, where we just talked about the letter of the year the last two Sundays, right? We live in a world right now that if I turn on the TV, you're hearing people and everybody has an opinion. I had to unfriend people on social media to a certain point because I'm just not into the rhetoric. I'm not into the political views. I'm not into anything that's not going to help promote my destiny, my community, and push them forward. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, people are fighting for the sake of fighting, and they think they're causing change, but are they really? And when they turn back and they look at the sands of time, did they persecute themselves because they weren't walking the path they were supposed to walk? And those are just real conversations that we all need to have when we have to look in the mirror and say, am I being the best version of myself? Now, I'm not saying you cannot do those things. I would never dare to tell you guys that. But I would tell you that those who have Irosonga, you know what I mean? You may want to think twice. Those of you that, are going to take the lessons from Irosonga, because Irosonga is still a lesson in Ifa that's being taught to all of us. We have to be very cautious on how we want to use our time. Use your time for the things that you need, not the things that you want, not the things that you are illusioning to do, not the things that you can't control, not the things that, you really have zero stake in, but yet you feel like this is something I need to do. I urge you to cautiously reevaluate your priorities because that's what Hiroshima tells us to do. But more importantly, it tells us to do because here's the law of this Odun in Hiroshima, and this is non-negotiable. What you say shapes what you suffer. And I can talk about karma, I could talk about destiny, I can talk about 100 different things. But what you say shapes your own suffering. Because Hiroshunga begins to teach us that words create spiritual trials. Hiroshunga teaches us that the speeches open doors, but they also close them. Hiroshunga says that careless talk attracts unnecessary resistance. This is an odun, is why the elders always say the mouth has no bone, but it breaks bones. And it's just something for us to visualize, something to understand, right? And the elders, what they're trying to communicate by that old saying, the mouth has no bone, but it breaks bones, is the old saying, right? That nonetheless, you can be your own demise. Your words will inflict, but how does that benefit you? If you're doing something just out of self-pride, right, or your ego, is it really worth it, or did you just waste your time? What is the point of arguing with a fool or speaking out of terms if it doesn't benefit your bottom line, which is your destiny? And then I ask you, what is your destiny? Where do you see yourself going? Do you have a plan for next year or this year, next year, and the next? Are you making those check marks and are you meeting those milestones? What are the things that you value? Do they align with your destiny? Heck, do you even have your hand to be five? And if you don't, I encourage you to get it. If you're still on the fence of whether or not this is something you need to understand, this spirituality would open up your eyes, begin to vector you where you need to go. And this is not a pitch for everybody to go run and get their hand to be five. This is just merely an understanding of the spiritual walk that we are in. So correcting that vision is important, right? So for those of you with itas, right? Here's something I encourage you to do. If ita ever warned you about gossip, about anger, about arguments, about disputes with others, about revealing too much, then Irosunka and the concepts and the lessons of Irosunka are not new to you, right? This is just plainly said. This is your elevation, and it depends on what you stop saying. It depends on not just what you start doing, but what you say, right? In that pataki, you can walk the walk, but can you talk the talk? How many times have you heard that and really not necessarily let that sink in a little bit? So it's important for us to remember that, if you want to protect your destiny and you're trying to be the best version of you, remember something very simple. And this feeds into the letter of the year. This feeds into just general advice. This feeds in to all the political and world chaos going on. Two ears, one mouth. Two ears, one mouth. This is so you can listen double time and you can speak less. Do more listening, speak less. Understand what you speak can cause, irreversible harm. Something to remember. Now, if you want to protect your destiny, very simple. Speak less, plan quickly, move strategically, let the results speak for you. You don't have to toot your own horn. You don't have to jump on social media and get something called the evil eye or get this cloud over your head, right? For the sake of, I want to announce things. I want to be able to tell people my successes. I want to be able to wear my bling bling and tell people, look at all the greatness that I have. No, no, stop. Follow your ita. Follow your ita. Plan. Strategic. Let your results speak for yourself. Think logically, less emotionally, and you're going to start to see instant gratification. And you don't have to prove yourself to anyone but yourself. Now, let's say you don't have any doubt, right? Then this odnung is a training for you before your revelation. Because again, I'm not trying to encourage you to go run get your hand AB five. You don't have it. However, I will tell you, go get it. Go get it. And see how this lesson, when you apply it to Yurita, right? Now you got something to look at. If you can't control your mouth now, then guess what? You will not control power later. Those with power don't necessarily allow their words to dictate how much money they have in the bank, how much stocks they have, how much control they have. No, they already did that. They already played that game. And you didn't even know their name until you knew it. And at that point, they're already powerful. They already got it. And you can do that as well. You will not carry responsibility safely if you're not able to control your mouth. All right? You will not be able to protect secrets. So who will trust you if you don't control your mouth? And many people take pride in saying, I say how it is, and I'm going to call it how it is, and I'm going to and people have the ability, right, to just take pride in that, not knowing the damage that they can cause or the doors that they're going to close or the connections that they could be making with certain people that will maybe help and elevate them, and maybe that's part of their journey, but they shut them down. And those are things that we got to think about, and we got to reflect on that, right? So if I doesn't reveal destiny, right, to people who are gonna leak it. So food for thought, food for thought. So vision moving forward. If I had to create a vision for you, and again, I encourage you to ask all the questions you want in the chat, and I will answer them without a problem, right? Because it's very cold in Texas, and I know that's weird to hear, but it's cold out here, man. It's 25 degrees with a wind chill somewhere in the teens. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm in the hotel with you, right? So vision moving forward is very easy. Maturity, not noise. And we talked about this last Sunday, where the world is noisy. There's a lot of things that are trying to push us away, and we're not focused on where we need to be. And we have to focus. We got to get after it. That's the key. So, as a Cyberland Ile, that's what I'm gonna call you guys. You're Cyberland Ile, my spiritual house, right? This is our direction. This is what I think right looks like. Don't announce everything. Don't explain yourselves unnecessarily. Don't argue publicly. And sometimes, like the Opataki with the tiger and the donkey was saying that the grass is purple, and the tiger was arguing with the donkey saying, no, it's green. And they fought so much that they went to the lion to kind of find that resolution, right? That mediation. And the king of the jungle told the tiger, you know, and the donkey as they were talking and they were trying to find out what was right. Is the grass green or the grass purple? And the king of the jungle said, no, the grass is purple. And the lion was so lost. What do you mean? It's green. It's obviously green, but he didn't say anything out loud at that moment. And the king of the jungle, the lion, punished the tiger for silence for 5 years. And the donkey ran off. You know what I mean? A happy as can be. See, I told you the grass is purple. And what the lion did, he allowed the tiger to say a last few words, and the tiger just said, I just need to understand. Why are we saying the grass is purple when it's truly green? And he says, who's the bigger fool? The person who believes in something that is not true, or the person that is going to argue with the fool, understanding that they will never change their mind. And the lion was merely trying to teach a lesson to the tiger. When you argue with fools and you spend that time debating, what are you truly gaining from that? Even if the king of the jungle, let's say the lion, told the donkey, the grass is green, donkey, there's something wrong with you. Okay, what would that have cost? But it's better to invest in the tiger and teaching him a lesson as he elevates and he grows than to maybe train the donkey or get into a different conversation with the donkey where nothing is really going to come out of that necessarily that verdict if we told the donkey it's green and the donkey is now confused because the donkey thinks it's purple and the why the donkey is thinking is purple. Too much time wasted, too much time invested. And we have to take that same thought and we got to start to apply it into our everyday life. Remember this in every movie you watch, right? And just kind of picture this, whether it's movies, whether it's real life, the CEOs of multi-billion dollar companies, trillion dollar companies, right? The king and queens of the past, they never narrated their every move. They made decisions and they moved on. You either liked it, you didn't like it. Things happen and you didn't even know they were happening because the king and the queen already did it. They execute. They don't articulate everything. So then what are you? Are you a king or are you a queen? Where are you going with this? So you don't son ka. right? Irosunka is an odun that turns potential into permanence by teaching restraint. So do you have the restraint? Or do you feel like you have to say something? It's like every bone in your body saying, I have to say something. Or are you able to kind of look between the chaos, between the noise, and say, is this something worthy of my time? And if it's not, who cares what they say? Because at the end of the day, when you are sitting on that throne and you made the king or queen out of yourself, you answer to no one. So why start doing it now when you're trying to rise to the top? Hiroson Ka. Hiroson Ka has several proverbs in Hiroson Ka that begins to talk about how the person's mouth can kill them, right? Bad words do not rest quietly. What you say today, life will answer tomorrow. Do not say, what you do not want to hear returned. And there's tons of Yoruba terms, right? Tons of proverbs out there. And I'm not trying to name all of them, but just to try to give you a few. But all of those fall into Irosonka as a very pivotal lesson for everyone, right? So, this week, our assignment is very simple, right? And we can call this a sermon, sure, we'll call it a sermon. As you start your week tomorrow, Monday, and we get into next Sunday, something I would really appreciate each of you to do. Don't announce your plans. Do not vent publicly. Don't argue to be right. Don't speak from emotion. Speak from logic. And then ask yourself before you speak, is this protecting my destiny or exposing it? And if the answer is unclear and you hesitate, then don't speak at all. You lose nothing if you don't speak at all, but you lose something. And it's a gamble if you say something and you already hesitated, because then you could possibly be wrong, you could possibly be exposed. And that's something that we have to kind of focus on, is it not? Now, hopefully that all makes sense. Okay. Now I want to kind of talk to you guys a little bit about Irosunka and the concepts of, let's understand Irosunka from a perspective of spirituality. Right. For those of you who are Irosunka, right, I feel like I owe you a couple of answers, right? Because I know people are probably sitting there like, man, wait a minute, I'm Irosunka. And if you are Irosunka, feel free to raise your hand or say something and tell me who's your guardian Orisha so I can at least kind of maneuver this advice slightly. But I'm going to tell you in generics, right? Irosunka is a sign that, if we're not careful, we find ourselves in predicaments of reacting emotionally and not being able, right, to focus on the promises or the destiny that we're going to. And we have the tendency of not even being able to comply with everything that we say we're going to do because we say what we're going to do all the time. This is a sign where money first came into the world in Irosunka. Irosunka is designed with a concept of making money, right? But you guys heard the old saying, not all money is good money. So this is a sign that the desires, right, can sometimes be difficult to achieve based on your own undoing. Irosonka is a sign that says, listen, if I will save you, if I will save you, never forget that. Because no different like in the Badaki. You go to a room and you get your ebo. Not only do you do the ebo, but you look inside yourself, you reflect on the advice, and you correct yourself. And then that's when you're assured prosperity and stability in your life. Irosung Sa, is a sign, that of a person that needs to be close to their parents, the mom, the dad, particularly the mom. Because in Irosung Ka, the reason why the child is like that, or Irosung Ka, the reason why, the person becomes their own worst enemy to a certain point, right, is because the parents, right, the nurturing of the child has never been taught to kind of restrain themselves and they were able to talk freely, right? And therefore now they have to go back in time and they got to begin to fix that. And that generational curse can sometimes be hard. So having that linkage and learning from the mistakes or learning from what or maybe our elders couldn't teach us, believe it or not, maintaining that stability with that family, that mother, that father, or maybe that spiritual home actually grows you in many different facets and brings a spirituality, right, that can undo generational curses at that point. Right? Irosonka is a very fabulous sign with a lot of beautiful little hidden treasures, right? Irosonka is a sign that tells you, hey, listen, don't allow situations to affect you because then you get emotional and you're not logical. And when you're emotional, not logical, you're going to speak. And when you're going to speak, you're going to gamble again. That's why in Irosonka, you got to be careful. Right? Irosonka is a sign when Ochun brought wealth. Mafara fue un Ochun en Irosonka. Ochun is the one that brought the wealth and the riches into the world. Again, not all money is good money. So what are you using that money for if you're Irosonka? And Ifa teaches us all these lessons. These are all simple lessons in Irosonka. Very, very, very simple lessons. But nonetheless, Irosonka is a really good sign for a Babaláwo. If you have Irosonka in your hand of Ifa, you go to the required, precursor steps to going into Ifa, and man, you will do well because Ifa is going to continue to levy the advice and the lessons that you need to understand. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns, anything going on in Cyberland? What you guys got? What you guys got? Last time you guys kind of left me with only a couple of, now maybe a couple of questions. This time I don't see any questions on here. And I told you, I'm at your disposal. And obviously, the members, you guys got the right away because only the members are going to respond. So I'm doing this more for you, but I don't want to steal the advice away. So I give the advice publicly. So I'm super curious to know what you got to say. Give it to me once, give it to me twice. Nothing? Okay. Now, if you guys don't have anything, then I will tell you this. You know, what I want to do next week is I want to discuss Oyekun Ogunda, right? And we're going to talk about what happens when the warnings are ignored. You all received an ita. You all were told, or maybe you didn't receive an ita. Maybe you had a consultation, or maybe you had good advice, and maybe you just didn't let it sink in, right? There's a difference between hearing something and listening. Now, let me tell you this. Oyekun Ogunda is going to talk about the warnings and what happens when they're ignored, whether it's an ita, a consultation, a general advice, you understand the laws of the land that you live in, and you just ignore these warnings. You get these gut feelings from your eguns, from your spirits. You know you have spirits with you. You're dreaming about things, but yet you don't know how to piece them together. This is advice that's being given to you. But what happens when you are warned, you ignore the advice, right? Deliberately. I had a wonderful question that was posed to me today, and I had to tell somebody this very thing, and I'm going to give you this as a word of advice. Don't ask Ifa questions that you don't want to hear the answers to. So, for example, if you want to bother Ifa with a question and the Babaláwo wants to entertain it and says, okay, well, ask Ifa, should this woman be with me? Should this man be with me? Just an example. And Ifa says, no, that person should not be with you. But yet you still rough it out. But you ask Ifa, and Ifa already told you this is not going to work out very well. This kind of goes against your destiny. Ifa sees it all right? And you stood there and you spent time and effort, right? And you're never going to get that time back, right? Time is a very valuable thing. And when things start to go wrong, whose fault is it? You didn't listen to the advice. So the warning was ignored, but you asked a question. All right. So a lot of times we got to be careful. No different than if you receive your hand to be five. You're trying to understand your destiny. You want to understand where you're going, how you're going to get there, what are my steps, how do I elevate, and how do I get to a good position to be that king and queen in this world, right? With some more clarity, with some more vision. So then there's the key. You came, you asked for advice, and you didn't take it. So then, if you came, asked for advice, and didn't listen, and you're wondering what is going on, I went through this ceremony, and I'm not getting better, I'm getting worse. Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Or do you feel that every time you go sacrifice a four-legged animal, you find somebody to do it for you, or a rooster or whatever, that that's supposed to automatically fix something? I just gave you a pataki. Yeah, he physically did the bull, but he didn't correct the Ifainu. He didn't hear the warnings and the advice. And that's what we're going to tackle. Oyekun Ogunda next Sunday. So I think I leave you all with that. So if I don't see any questions, come on, guys, give me something. Don't let me leave without at least answering one question. Give me at least one before I sign off. I'll take a quick pause. Well, I definitely got some awesome fans. I will tell you that. Alex is showing number one fan. I got Paul as a number two fan. You know what I mean? I got Paul again as a number three fan. Look at that. Okay. I don't know how it does it, but hey, guys, thank you for humoring me. Thank you for coming on, on this Sunday. Thank you very much as always. I appreciate each and every one of you. And now I see a question come in. Relationships are difficult to navigate. A person asks for advice about their mate, knowing the mate is questionable. If I doesn't lie. Star, spot on. Careful what you ask for, right? That's the big question. That's why I tell people, everybody asks me, they say, hey, do you ask Ifa everything? I do. I ask Ifa everything. I confirm everything. And I don't like to interfere with people's destiny. So I ensure that it's not me saying something, it's Ifa saying something. My job is to understand the 256 Oddu and make sure that if Ifa already made a determination on a certain position, that I'm not going to bother Ifa by throwing the Equilis. Then I'm just going to advise the person directly. This ain't Ifa. This is how this flows. Pa, 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 pa. That's the big key. I have a comment regarding Arita. If you haven't gotten a complete breakdown of it, I would suggest getting it. It's so in depth. It's with it. It's worth it. Paul, Buddha boy, Bucheche. Hey, Paul, I appreciate you saying that because it's true. For those of you, who don't know, and this is not me trying to sell myself, but I do papers for the DAS. And I think, Paul, what was the page count on the paper that I did for you? It was like 70 pages, something crazy, right? But a very in depth. You know what I mean? So that way, it's something to think about. Dang, you left me with a lot with a lot of thoughts. Super excited for this week now as we actively are implementing this advice. 2 ears, one mouth. Thank you for taking the time to spread this knowledge. No, Buddha boy, Bucheche. Now, guys, this is beautiful. And even though it was only 40 minutes, it was at least 40 valuable minutes that we took to invest in ourselves, to invest in making ourselves better, right? And that is going to be the big key. 71 pages. Damn, that was it. 71 pages. I made Paul wait a little bit for that because it took me a while to make it. Tell me what, Paul, it took us like 35 days, but I got the paperwork squared away. Everything you need to know on Anita, right? The first sign, second sign, third sign, prophecy, guardian Orisha, splatter, boom, put together to create a roadmap. Now, and I appreciate Paul, appreciate you doing the shout out there. That's beautiful. Okay, guys, so Eburu boy Ebucheche, Thank you for tuning in. I will see you guys next Sunday. So as always, I appreciate each and every one of you. And with that said, Iburu, Iboya, Ibuche, chair body Cyberlands, your fair Babaláwo. At least I hope so. Omodun Leke coming at you with another great video. And I'll see you again next Sunday.